So welcome to our webinar this morning on virtual service learning. I'm really excited to be able to welcome an amazing group of young people from Edina Public Schools, the Edina 212 Leadership Group. I want to thank them so much for being presenting with us this morning. And of course, welcoming Julie Rogers-Bascom from NYLC and from Edina Schools. So thank you all for being here. Thank you everyone for joining us this morning. And I'm gonna step back and say, take it over, guys. Share with us your knowledge and expertise. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Amy. I appreciate the opportunity to highlight the really good and important work that this group of young people are doing. I am really honored to call them my partners. They will sometimes call me their advisor, but I really view myself as a partner, and I think that's one of the important elements of quality service learning is to partner with young people. We're going to be talking today about virtual service learning. As Amy said, my name is Julie Rogers-Bascom. I am the Director of Training and Leadership Development at NYLC, and I also have been working in Edina Public Schools for many years using service and civic learning to engage young people. And we'll be learning more about the Edina 212 Leadership Group in a minute. I want to thank these young people for what they are going to be sharing with all of us, but also for this year of important work. Just a quick aside about the National Youth Leadership Council. NYLC is a national group located here in St. Paul. We've been around for 35 plus years, and our goal is really to engage young people to become active citizens by engaging in service learning during their K-12 years. We do that in three ways. We develop leaders, young leaders. You'll be hearing from some today. We support service learning practitioners. After you're done with this webinar, which we will be posting, take a look at some of the other resources on our web page. We have webinars, we have forms, we have videos, we have lots of information that might help you with your service learning practice. And we're also working to advance the field. There's been a resurgence in civic education and service learning, and we're excited to be partnering with other people around the country to really make this a strategy that young people and teachers can become involved. Now, before I introduce some of the young people, I want to have a couple of housekeeping questions. If you have some questions, please use the Q&A function on the toolbar, on the Zoom toolbar. If you're having trouble with connections or something, you can use the chat box. We also will be doing a Slido survey, two different exchanges, engagement strategies. So you will need your cell phone if you have a QR code, or you can use a window. You can open up a new window and you can go to slido.com. So just a precursor to that. So without further ado, I'd like to ask Carter. Carter, where are you? Carter, what does leadership mean to you? And then tell us a little bit about the 212 group.
Yeah, so leadership to me is lifting up and supporting other people to try to get to a common goal and to make change in any way possible. Yeah, and that's basically what the 212 leadership group at Edina High School does. Edina is a suburb right outside of Minneapolis, for those who don't know. We connect students with the community inside and outside of school with service events, with local charities and different places, as well as in school where we help them to become better leaders. The six of us are the cabinet, so we plan these events and are the ones who are kind of in charge of everything. So we do meet, the six of us meet during the school day, and so it's a class for us, and we have lots of time to develop ourselves as leaders and plan events. Another thing that you guys might be wondering about is our name. Where does 212 come from? It comes from just saying about how at 211 degrees, water is just hot, but at 212 degrees, it boils, and that 1 degree of difference can make some steam, and steam can power a train. So it just comes out of like, just any bit of change is good. So, and that's what we try to do. No matter how small, we try to make change in our community. And that's what 212 is.
Every act of service is an act of peace. Thank you, Carter. Thank you. Now is our first opportunity to talk to you about, or for us to learn who is in the audience right now. So either hover your QR code reader into that left corner box, scan that code, or go to Slido, SLIDO, and it'll ask you for a code. And I've got to move this here. The code is 8301. So I see somebody has been able to, okay, we're seeing some other people showing their, who they are. We have some youth workers. We have a higher ed teacher or administrator. We have some students. Fabulous. We love it when students are with us so we can share in our knowledge and create more partnerships. See some K-12 teachers and some caring adults. It's fabulous. We'll give it one more minute. Now, just a background question. 212, have any of you led a webinar before?
Nope, this is the first one.
Yeah,
Nope.
first one.
First one.
Terrific, terrific. Well, you're doing a great job so far. I appreciate that. I see youth workers. We understand that service learning can be a strategy in out-of-school programs as well. When we talk about learning outcomes, we also talk about academic outcomes. We talk about civic and character and leadership skills. So it looks like there is a lot of youth workers and a lot of K-12 teachers. All right, thanks so much. I'm going to close down this. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. There we go. So Artie Graham, how are you staying in touch with your friends these days? And how does the project that we're going to be talking to, how does that relate to that?
Okay, so the main ways I've been staying in contact with friends is using technology and connecting virtually over platforms such as Zoom, FaceTime, and other meeting spaces. And regarding our project, they are all related to staying connected during self-isolation.
Now, can you tell me a little bit about how we got started? I mean, we started talking about, distance learning. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, so originally, like Carter said earlier, we would meet twice a week with Julie in person. However, after COVID-19, we had to transition to meeting online, and we weren't initially prepared for going completely online with us being a service group, because it was kind of hard for us to find different ways to engage in virtual service learning. So we really had to take some time and play with it and try and figure out what that would look like. And we did have some concerns about how we would find volunteers for virtual service and what different versions of virtual service would look like. But luckily, we found different ways we could serve our community online. So.
So we really started with the issue. We started with what are some of your concerns about distance learning and being in isolation? So that's where we started. We actually did not start with a project, although we had some ideas, but we really took a moment to pause and think about the issue, because that allowed us to be a little bit more creative in some of the ideas that we came up with. I want to review real quickly our 4 stages of service learning. Now, the 6 young people in the 212 cabinet, they're engaged in service learning because they're engaged in the whole process. Many of the young people who will be engaged in some of the action, I would say that they are having a community service experience. Both are good and important work, but right now we're focusing on developing leadership skills in and for the young people that I'm working with right now. So real quickly, 4 stages. First stage is determine, what are your hope for outcomes. Second stage is determining acceptable evidence. What does it look like if you've reached that outcome? third stage, you probably, if you've been engaged in service learning, you've heard about the IPAR cycle, and that's really where the student learning comes into play. And that fourth stage is self-assessment. What went well, what needed to change, what still needs to be done. So real quickly, I'm going to go over a little bit about identifying desired results. What were our hoped for results? Oftentimes, this is where the teacher or youth worker or the caring adult identifies what it is that they're hoping young people will be able to do or express. So I actually, in this regard, I asked the young people, I asked our cabinet, what are you hoping to achieve? And I love some of the things that they talked about. Theo talked about he wanted to be more connected with other people, even though I can't physically see them. That was their hope for outcome. That was his hope for outcome in this process. Emily talked about feeling like they're still making a difference despite having to do it virtually and from home. So again, we started with what did we want to accomplish? They also talked a little bit about what did they want for their community. Carter said he wanted to preserve the sense of community even when we can't see each other. So by engaging young people in desired results helped fuel the action. So if you're a teacher, a K-12 teacher, this is where you would put your standards. If you're a youth worker, this is where you would put some of those youth outcomes that you're looking for. The second stage, real quickly, is determining acceptable evidence. Now, if you are a K-12 teacher, this is where you would be doing some assessments and you'd be thinking about how to measure. But I asked the young people, what is it that how will you know that you reached your hope for outcome? Theo talked about he'd be interacting with people more digitally. Emily thought that we'd be more positive because we feel like we're positively impacting the community. So those are, I will also refer you on the NYLC website. We have a document that leads you through, that guides you through those 4 stages. It's called the Service Learning Educator Handbook. It's under the Service Learning resources on our webpage. So that's stage 1 and stage 2. Again, notice that we didn't start with a project. We really started with some of the background thinking. Now, stage 3 is, as I mentioned, is really that IPAR cycle: investigation, planning and preparing, action, reflection, demonstration. We have been doing investigation, and Maithili will be talking a little bit about that in a minute. Many of us right now are still in that planning and preparation stage. So I would say that our actions are not complete, but we have been doing reflection around all of the different steps. We also, which is different in our particular group, we have multiple actions that are going on. And Maithili, I'd like you to, I have a question for you first. What kind of leader are you, and how did we go about investigating the issue?
So I think there's a common misconception about leadership, and that people who are assertive and the loudest people in the room aren't necessarily the best leaders. But one of the most important things that I learned through 212 is that there's so many different kinds of leaders. So within the first month of 212, we took a leadership compass quiz. And so I found out that I was predominantly a South leader and a little bit of an East leader. So what that means is that I was able to connect well with people on a one-on-one basis, rather than necessarily leading such a big group of people. And also as an East leader, I'm able to think creatively and about big and open ideas. So each of us were able to take our own strengths as different kind of leaders and to discuss the different impacts of social isolation. So for the different impacts, we noticed that mental health was one of the biggest concerns that we noticed. And we also noticed that a lack of social interaction could also affect your sleep cycle, and it could make you feel cooped up with the lack of exercise. So then the most important thing that we decided to do was to address this issue as a whole and to see what we could do in our community to make us feel more connected. So some of the things that we came up with were posting Zen quotes on our Twitter page, or creating an Instagram that posts the decision day future plans for seniors, because we wouldn't be on school for decision day. And we also came up with a blog on our website for each of us to post about things that we're doing during social isolation to make us feel more connected to our community. And we're also creating a video to show gratitude to our teachers. And we think that through these actions that we'll be able to create more connections within our community. And even though we're all separated, we'll still feel united as a whole.
Thank you. I think what was so remarkable about really taking that step of investigating is that each one of the 212 cabinet members came up with different ideas. I know Mythili is really interested in medicine and medical kinds of things. And so her perspective was really valuable because that might not be where I would have gone. Thank you, Mythili. Nice. The next step in the IPAR process is the planning and preparation phase. And this is really important because it helps us go from ready, set, go. Many of us, myself included, will go, oh, got an idea, let's just go do it. So we're really, and again, as I mentioned, this is where many of us are right now in this whole process. We're doing the planning and preparation. And Theo, I'm going to ask you to talk a little bit about what you think makes a good leader, and then share about how we're planning and preparing right now.
So I really think that the defining character trait of any successful leader is a lack of selfishness, because ultimately a leader is supposed to be leading others. So the focus should never be on yourself. You should really be thinking about how all the people around you can be supported and how they can reach their goals. Moving on to planning and preparation. We have really been doing a ton of stuff. We have a bunch of different projects we're working on simultaneously, and each of us is kind of taking an individual role with each of them. So I'm not going to go too in depth about what all of the projects are because we're going to be talking about that next. But we have been looking at new functionality on our website to figure out how we can do blog posts. We have contacted the owner of an Instagram account, and we have figured out how to standardize Instagram posts for it. We've been trying to find volunteers for a variety of different activities, including shooting a video, doing pen pals, and figuring out how to read books to preschoolers. And we have also been trying to figure out really a good way for us to stay involved on the website with mental health as well. So not only have we been writing blog posts, we've been wanting to include mental health tips so that people can get some advice if they're feeling down or if they feel like, you know, psychologically they're being harmed by quarantine and social isolation.
Thank you. Thank you. You can see this is a very, very active group. And we've really paused to try to build some partnerships with other groups. We had originally talked about making videos or actually we were thinking about having live conversation with younger people with books, but we really found that could be a barrier, and we wanted to be honor the Edina safety codes. So we had to switch gears a little bit. So we're making videos instead of that live connection. So we've partnered with other people and other agencies, which is again one of those standards of quality service learning.
Julie, before you move on from planning and preparation, I think we have a question here that fits nicely with that stage of IPAR. So could you guys speak just a little bit to how you developed this webinar? Was it through Zoom? You know, what kind of tools or resources did you use in your planning and preparation of this session?
So we usually use a Google Meets platform when we meet together on Tuesdays and Thursdays, but we collaborated. We knew that NYLC uses Zoom. So Carter, do you want to talk a little bit about how we divided up the tasks?
Yeah. So when we were dividing up the task, usually we'd brainstorm ideas as a group, and then to really get like the details of each thing, we would then like just volunteer about which one we wanted each person wanted to focus on. So that's kind of how we divided up the service. And we did a lot of stuff on our own with like filling out Google documents and like taking notes and like finding information for ourselves and with communication, just so that it wasn't either all loaded on one person or it felt like someone wasn't doing anything. So we all kind of shared the load of everything.
And just to follow up on that, I think some of it was individual action, but I also think some of it was collaborative. And maybe that's a good segue into the action. Does anybody want to talk a little bit about a little bit more about some of the actions that we're taking? Particularly, I'm thinking about Carter and Theo. You all were doing the blog and the Instagram, and you were kind of collaborating on the tech stuff.
Yeah, our goal with the blog posts were we were also working with the mental health, because there were to just show how we've been getting through the stay at home and all that stuff, just and how it's affected us and what we've been doing to stay active and to stay positive during this time. So we were going to incorporate that with the mental health, and I think Theo can talk about the Instagram too, about how we use that to spread positivity.
Mm-hmm. So the Instagram account was actually started by a different student at EHS who was not associated with 212. And so he was trying to figure out how we could recognize where people are going to be going to college, because none of us were actually in school for decision day or when a lot of kids actually were making their decisions for where they were going to go. So it was just a really nice idea to have people be able to say, this is what I'm looking forward to in my future. People could connect with others if they were going to the same school, or even if they were going to different schools, people could say, congratulations, I know you really wanted to get in. And I think the person who started the Instagram account quickly realized that he was in over his head, because we were getting like hundreds of DMs with people asking us to post their college. So we just kind of took it over, obviously with this person's consent. And we standardized all the Instagram posts. And in the end, it was a huge success. I would say that definitely the majority of our grade is on this Instagram account, if not more. So it's just been really great. I've been seeing a ton of people like putting our posts on their stories and, celebrating with each other about everybody's future plans. So it's just a really good way for people to focus on what they have to look forward to instead of, being frustrated with their current situation.
Mm-hmm. And I know we also, one of the things that we are a school sanctioned group. So we made sure that it was sanctioned by administration. Who did you talk to, Theo? Who were some of the people that you and Carter interfaced with? Make sure that this was...
Yeah, so we talked with a couple of the counselors, because they are very heavily involved with the seniors and the college process, and also one of the vice principals, because they help a lot with 212, and just having someone in administration know what we're doing and support it was something that was important to us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, terrific. Thanks, guys. Maithili, do you want to talk a little bit about the Pen Pal effort? Is there anything more you'd like to talk about with that?
Yeah, so we reached out to the Edina Community Education Program, and we found out that they were partnering with the Senior Center and with the Edina Library to create this sort of intergenerational Pen Pal program. So one thing that we did was that we created a spreadsheet with people where people could put all their information and their interests to send to these coordinators so that they could link them up with a person from any age so that they could participate in this Pen Pal program.
So again, another opportunity for us to build partnerships and for the greater community to see the impact that young people can have. It's not, oh, those young people, it's, oh, those young people. Margot, do you want to talk a little bit about reading videos? What's the thought behind the videos?
Yeah, so another project that we were working on is trying to reach out to the younger community and elementary schoolers. So we thought it would be a good idea to try to do some virtual reading buddy system. But we thought for the concern of just safety, like a parent would probably have to be on the Zoom or whatever platform we would use to call. So we thought that we could do just videos, take videos of ourselves reading books and send them into a website. It's still kind of being figured out, and we contacted the volunteer coordinator of Edina, so she has been helping us out with that. But yeah, we just wanted to reach out to the younger community because we know that they're definitely confused at these times and they want to just see other faces other than their parents or teachers or whoever they're being with right now.
And I also think they look up to older people, and you're also helping to break the image of teens, you know, so you're becoming a little bit more approachable. I think your mom was involved, so she might be able to give us some support as well. Say just a bit about that.
Yeah, so she's a para at Creek Valley Elementary School, and she works in one of the kindergarten classrooms, and she has been taking videos of herself reading children's books for her kindergartners, and they love it, and they send back little recordings of themselves like saying, "Thank you, Mrs. Prescott, we love your story." And so I think it would just be fun for them to see some other faces other than my mom and their teacher. So yeah. Oh, Juliet, you're muted, I think.
Thanks, Margot. What I love is that we look at different things around our world and we see how we can adjust and make it relevant and be of service. I think, Emily, are you going to talk a little bit about some of your work around the mental health issues?
Yeah, we're not too far into this effort yet, but we have started a blog post first of all, and I know some of the other members have been working hard on that, but with the blog post where it was kind of a check-in to see how people were doing and to like show what we were doing to stay positive and everything with that, and we wanted to pair that with awareness for mental health. So we're finding articles and awareness surrounding mental health issues, because we know that it can be hard to stay in a good place mentally during these like uncertain, unknown times. So we wanted to make sure that, and we think it's even more necessary now than ever to make sure we're still checking in with people and staying positive. So we wanted to bring awareness to any of the mental health effects and things like that. So we're working on efforts with that.
Yeah. Great. And Artie, tell us a little bit about your thoughts of the video that you are working on with, I think, Theo.
Okay. So pretty much we're doing a gratitude video for the class of 2020 because we're going to be missing out on the opportunity to kind of get that closure from high school. So with this particular effort, what we'll be doing is we're getting student volunteers to just say one of three things: either something they're grateful for from high school, something that they learned, or something that they'll miss from high school, and then if there's any particular staff member that they might miss. And then we're going to be making a compilation and then sharing that with the district, just so teachers can get a chance to see maybe some of their favorite students just saying thank you one more time or saying goodbye. And it'll be a nice little thing that people can look back to when this is all over. So.
Thanks. Thank you, Artie. So we're busy. We are very, 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 very busy. The next stage is that we talk about in our service learning process is reflection. Margot is going to tell us a little bit about reflection, but one of the things that I want to add is that reflection is something that goes on before, during, and after this. And they all would probably say, Julie asks all these questions all the time. But before we talk about that, Margot, tell us a little bit about how Edina High School changed instruction to from in-person to distance learning.
Yeah, so for our Edina's distance learning process, our teachers will post ABAs, they're called attendance-based assignments, on our Schoology page, which is the platform we use to complete those assignments, and they will post them at 9 in the morning, and we'll have to complete them by 5 p.m. to get our attendance counted for. And we will either have asynchronous or synchronous classes, and asynchronous are just classes that we'll do on our own, just work that you can submit at any time. But synchronous classes are when the teacher will set an exact time that you have to be on a live, like Google Hangout is what we use, or a live quiz that is timed in a certain amount of time. So, yeah.
Great. Now tell us a little bit about how we reflected during our process.
Yeah, so for reflection, we answered a lot of questions, like Julie said, on spreadsheets about just our concerns, hopes, and thoughts about this process of social isolation and distance learning through all of this, and service. So for example, we talked about getting through distance learning and how we can help each other and ourselves with that, and how to do service virtually, because obviously that was a very different environment for us to figure out, and helping different age groups, which is what we really wanted to focus on. So we started out every meeting on our Tuesdays and Thursdays with a question about how we were feeling and just what was important for us to work on that day. And to keep normalcy, we continued to meet 2 days a week like we did during the normal school year on Tuesdays and Thursdays to reflect on just what was important to us and what we wanted to work on.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. Now is an opportunity for all of us listening to reflect. So my question to you in this poll is, what are 3 words that reflect your thoughts on virtual service learning? So again, you can go to slido.com, type in that code 8301, or you can hover over the corner, the top left corner, and that will take you to the poll. So what 3 words are you thinking of that reflect your thoughts on virtual service learning? So what will happen is that this will create a word cloud. So there's one. Meaningful, enriching, eye-opening. Okay, thank you. Meaningful, yes. Effective, thoughtful. Community. I really think that one of the things that was important for me in this process was to continue that relationship building. And I have a slide a little later on that talks about how we build relationships. And that was one of the things that we kept reflecting on. Oh, these are great. We kept reflecting on how we could stay together and stay connected, and that was something important, the relationship aspect of this. Powerful, effective, important, innovative, challenging. Yes, it's challenging, and I would love to be able to figure out how to do the 212 group. The larger group is about 250 kids. Is that what we figured out, guys? About 250 kids, give or take. I'd love to be able to do this with more, but my capacity to do that, I haven't figured it out yet. So this is fabulous. Thank you. Meaningful, innovative, difficult, yes. Questions, creativity. I would say all of these young people that are on your screen right now have been very creative, and you're seeing a collaborative effort. So some of those outcomes, the team building, 21st century skills, social emotional learning, you're seeing that come out in this, in their words and their thoughts. So I'm going to move to our next slide. Thank you very much. That was really reinforcing for all of us. Trying to make this go forward. There we go. Carter, I'm going to ask you a little bit in a minute, but what demonstration is that last stage where we share with the community what we did, how we served. Now, we are not at this point quite yet, but so I'm going to ask Carter, have you done any kind of demonstration of what you've learned before, and then what are some of our plans to demonstrate what we've done?
Yeah, so a lot of the demonstration that we've done so far this year with 212 has been sharing with the people who do the service, and like the results of it, we like to share with them. We like to share it with administration just so they know what we're doing, and what we're doing is meaningful. And we like to share it on our Twitter and just to the public so that people know what we're doing. With our projects right now with virtual service learning, one of the big things that we're doing with demonstration is this webinar, just sharing that we are able to do virtual service learning and do it successfully. And that's what we like doing. With the Instagram, we shared it with the counselors and the vice principals of the school and they like talked with us about it, and they gave us some tips, and they helped out with it. And they also posted it on the social medias for the school too, just to get it out to the larger community. So that was a big part of that, is just sharing with the community what we're doing. With like the mental health stuff, we want to demonstrate what we're doing with that with the members of 212, and with like when we involve them with some of the community service things that we're doing, like the reading buddies and the pen pals. We also want to say, hey, here's some mental health resources if you need them, especially during this hard time. So that's just how we haven't gotten to this step as much yet with everything. So this is how we plan to demonstrate it. So yeah.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. It will be virtual. It'll be virtual demonstration rather than some of the other things that we've done where we might have a service fair kind of thing where we share what we learned. So we have pictures of some of the media. I would imagine there will be some articles, some newspaper articles, whether it be local or I'm sure that we'll do something on the NYLC blog about this as well. So the next step, we talked about the stages of service learning, 1, 2, 3. This fourth step is really about self-assessment. What did you do well? What did we learn collectively? What still needs to be done? I'm going to ask Emily a question. What do you think during these last 6 weeks, or maybe it's 7 weeks now, what's been the surprising silver lining in our situation? And then what did you learn from this experience so far that you didn't know before?
Sure. I think the biggest silver lining is that people have realized how much they value being connected to others and have come to appreciate it more. So I feel like that has helped us get a lot more support for our efforts, because people are really eager to stay connected with each other and to do what they can for their community. And I mean, I've seen people be a lot more generous and understanding during this time. And when we first started virtual service learning, we were confused and nervous about how it could work. But I think one thing we learned was that it's not only very possible, but also really necessary during this time, even more so than normal. Because this is a really important time to, for example, check up on people, and that's why we're doing efforts with mental health, and to just stay connected, which is why we're doing reading buddies and our Instagram page with the colleges for seniors to support them, and our other service efforts. So I think the biggest thing that we've learned is that through like collaborative work and creativity, that service learning virtually definitely is possible.
Thanks. Thank you, Emily. So I just wanted to a shout out to Search Institute and their work on building relationships, because that has been a real foundation of the work that I am engaged in with this fabulous group of young people. I think we demonstrated that we shared power. We demonstrated that there was an expression of care and that we were providing support for each other. We expanded some possibilities. We could have started with a project, but instead we went to those other steps of investigating and planning and preparing. And I don't know, would you say that some of these things were challenging, guys? Some of them? Yeah.
Yeah. Some of them.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Maybe even this webinar is challenging. Yeah. So here's a time that I would invite people to ask questions. I don't have the Q&A box on my screen, but Amy, if there are some other questions, the group would love to give more feedback.
We do have lots of questions in the chat, Julie, too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we can just start at the top.
Why don't you guys, I don't see those on mine, so why don't you go ahead and...
Okay. Yeah, we can answer those.
Yeah.
Here, let me help. So I think we have quite a large group from who represent libraries, and they wanted to have you expand just a little bit on that project, how you partnered with the public library, especially around the reading of stories. Can you guys speak just a little bit more to that?
Yeah, so we're still kind of working on that project. We haven't got it completely figured out, and we haven't actually partnered with the public library at all. We were just thinking of reading books of our own that we had, childhood books that like we think are appropriate and good for the kindergartners or whoever we were reading the books to, but we weren't planning on partnering with the public library. So, but we could check that out too.
Yeah, that's a great point. I know that we talked with some teachers and they've given recommendations. One of our barriers, and those of you who are the librarians out there, we would love some of your feedback. One of the barriers is that our libraries are closed. So, but that's really great information for us to think about. Thank you. Thanks, Margot. Good answer.
I think you all might have answered this, but are you meeting synchronously every day, or what does your meeting schedule look like?
Well, during the school week, normally before we started doing online learning, we were meeting with Julie on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and then on the other days of the week, we were just meeting just the students. So to kind of honor that and try to keep a sense of normalcy, we've been meeting on Tuesdays and Thursdays synchronously with Julie, and then on the other days we've been working on our own projects or completing Google Docs together, things like that.
So quick, like, how do you keep yourself motivated to do the work when you're not coming together? Like, what is it that really inspires you or engages you or like keeps you coming back?
So I think our meetings on Tuesday and Thursday are really good and just keeping us on track and motivated. Like, definitely, I do agree that like when it's just us on our own on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, we don't feel as motivated to do work. But we also have a group chat, one with just the 6 of us, and one also with Julie, that we constantly keep each other updated on what we're working on. So I think that's definitely a good way to stay connected and also stay focused on our project.
So kind of along those same lines, would you say more or less technology? Like, I think we're all looking for the best app, the best platform, the like more things to engage. Like, does it get overwhelmed? Like, are you like, okay, enough with technology, let's just land on something? Or are you excited or motivated by more or different technology?
I'd say we're definitely motivated by it. We do like using technology as young people, and we've been using a lot of different things from Zoom to Google Hangouts to Google Drive to YouTube, and all of these are just fun to learn how to use and try to figure out ways to incorporate them best into our service learning projects. And we feel like a lot of them really do fit well with what we're doing, and we're able to incorporate perfectly into it.
Wonderful, thank you.
I would add one comment about the composition of this group. Last year, they were chosen by the outgoing cabinet. So the last year's cabinet looked at what were some of the skills needed to take this group and move it to the next level. And they all came together, and maybe some of you guys, you're all in very different social groups and have different strengths and interests. And anybody talk about what that felt like to come together as very diverse, with very diverse personalities and experiences?
Yeah.
You go, Carter.
Margaret, at first we didn't, like, at the very beginning, we didn't know each other very well. And like, it was kind of like, oh, is this really going to work? But as we like started doing service events and planning things, we realized that we all are pretty different in like how we lead, but we all know that we all do want to lead and we want to do the best things that we can. And that really helped us to bring new ideas to the table in ways to help others, because that was what we all had in common, that we wanted to help others and make change in our school. So just knowing that, we were able to use our differences to come up with new ideas and strengthen what we're doing to make it the best possible.
Yeah, and to add on to that, because we were with each other 4 days out of the week, like we were spending a lot of time with each other and got used to each other's like ways of leadership and ways we wanted to do things. And it was kind of crazy how we all came together and didn't know each other. And now I have like 5 of my really close friends, so who I love leading with. So yeah.
So I think this next question is a great kind of tie on to that. So what have been really your strengths and challenges of having all of you leaders with different personalities, different experiences, different ideas coming together to work on the projects, and you have different projects as well. So like, what are the strengths and challenges of that? And how do you support each other and to ensure that each of your projects is successful?
I think a big part of that is that we are all so different, but like Carter said, we do all have the same goal in mind. And because we've become so close, we feel really comfortable asking each other for help. And I think we have a great like network of support within our group. So I think a lot of the times we all have an individual project, but everyone's kind of helping on everything at the same time, because even though one person can specialize in one thing, we can't do the project completely on our own because we need the support from our peers with other different leadership styles. So
I would also, oh, sorry, Artie, you can go.
Okay.
Yeah, you go.
Artie, it's on you.
Okay, to add on, I would just say the fact that we are so close and we are so different, I feel like everyone's a little bit, we're all comfortable challenging each other and just giving different perspectives on an idea. And we all see different either potential successes or different potential pitfalls. So I think it's just a lot better having such a different group of people who are also close.
Theo, you were going to say something. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to add that we also come up with all the ideas for these projects together. So like, it's not like one person says, I want to do this, and then they just go off and, work on it on their own. Like, we're all brainstorming together, and we all like ask each other for like suggestions, or if we like hit a wall with something in our project, we can, get help from somebody else. Like, we're always constantly talking to each other about all our, individual projects. So ultimately everybody's pretty involved with everything.
Mm-hmm.
So Julie, I think I have a couple of little more, questions that maybe you should answer. Is there any kind of formal or informal assessment of the leadership skills that you're conducting? And also, can you talk a little bit how, is there any monitoring of documents or websites to ensure the safety of the students who are participating?
Well, I do my best to monitor, and I have a great deal of trust with these young people. And we've had some conversations about what's appropriate and how we need to be the face of 212. We are the face of leaders of the high school. What was the first part of your question? Assessment?
Yes.
Well, in terms of, and that's something that's important in the progress monitoring, which is another one of those standards of quality service learning. At the very beginning of our year, we set some goals, and we had some ideas of what it was that each young person wanted to achieve as being a leader. So we will be revisiting that. This class is not a graded class. It is a class that is, they do because they want to be a part of it. So I'm not doing any assessments, and I don't ever want to be at a point where I'm saying, well, you're a leader, an A leader, and you're a C leader. You know, we're all about developing leadership strengths and addressing some of our how we want to be a better leader. One of the young people mentioned the leadership compass. That's a fabulous tool to talk about what kind of strengths we bring to the table, and we have used that a lot. In fact, when we identified what kind of leader we were, we've had some of the young people come in and say, I've got to get this task done. I need a West leader. So if you haven't checked out the leadership compass, that's a great tool to help with your young people when you're building leadership skills.
That's the end of our questions, Julie.
Okay, good. I went to, I can't figure out how to go backward on this. I just keep going forward. So there we go. These are some possible next steps. I invite you all to go to NYLC's Service Learning Resource Center. I mentioned that there was a handbook that really walks you through these 4 stages of service learning, and it asks you questions that help frame this work. Next week, we are excited to announce that we will be releasing a new handbook on virtual service learning in after-school programs. While it is geared towards the after-school space, it has a lot of application for K-12 as well. So look for that coming next week. And also, we're excited to offer an online youth leadership training for young people who are interested in addressing education equity. We have a youth advisory council that is working real closely with us to address that issue, using service learning as a strategy to address education equity. It's called Youth for Ed. So if you have young people who want to be involved in that kind of an effort, look for some more information on that coming soon. I also will be sending a survey out, a very simple survey that will help us know how we are doing. We're always looking for feedback on how to do our work better. If there are other questions that you have that you didn't get a chance to talk to the young people, you'll notice that I didn't use young people's last names, and I did not give you their email addresses. We're very careful, and we're very cautious. We protect our young people. So with that, Artie and Margot are going to talk a little bit about the last step.
Okay. Emily, do you want to start us off?
You're muted.
Oh. Sorry. We've been trying to stick to our normal routines and in our meetings, and what we usually do in our meetings in person is finish off with a quote. And our partner, Julie, has a bunch of flags from all around the world in her office. So we usually like to pick one of those flags from a country and then do a quote that kind of ties in with the theme of that day. So I believe that our quote for today is from Austria, and we chose the theme of resilience. And Artie's usually the one who reads those quotes, so I'll hand it off to him.
All right, thank you. So this quote is from Ryder Carroll, and it goes, "No matter how bleak or menacing a situation may appear, it does not entirely own us. It can't take away our freedom to respond, our power to take action."
Fabulous. That's how we end our meetings, both online and in person. I want to thank all of you for joining us. This was a great opportunity, and I also want a deep thank you to this 212 group. They've shown me and they've demonstrated what leadership looks like, and I am very honored to be their partner. Thank you, guys. We look forward to seeing you all at future webinars. Check out our website, nylc.org, for future webinars coming up. Again, thank you so much.